I still remember the day. It was 6th December 2020. My wife Sarika and I, we took a flight from Mumbai and we landed in Bangalore, and then, in about with a 3-hour cab ride, we were in the city of Mysore. All we had were our 2 backpacks and an Airbnb reservation. The cab from the Bangalore airport dropped us to the Airbnb in this beautiful, nice locality of Gokulam. And we were here, or we were in Mysore, to actually find a place to live, an apartment on rent. And we had told each other that if it works out, we will continue to live in Mysore. If it doesn't work, then we will be back in Mumbai in a few months. So that's how simple and probably even stupid our plan was. A lot of people, when they are thinking of moving from one city to another, they have a lot of planning, they have strong enough reasons. We left Mumbai for Mysore, a much smaller city than Bombay, only because we had fallen in love with the city and we wanted to get away from the hustle and bustle and the stress of big cities. But most of our decisions played out in 2021, and that's why the year of 2021 was probably one of the most important in my life and in my family's life. And in this year, we've discovered a philosophy that I think probably will work for you too. So stay with me in this video, because I'm going to narrate a few incidents, some experiments that we've made, and how through that I've come up with the philosophy of ready, steady, slow. We found a cute little house in a neighborhood called Jailakshmipuram. It had space all around, so we could actually grow build a garden or grow vegetables. That's what my mother wanted to do after her retirement. So we decided to go ahead with that house, and Sarika and I moved into that. But most of our decisions started playing out in 2021. We moved from Bombay to Mysore. We had taken a lot of things for granted in Bombay, like Wi-Fi, furniture, friends, family, everything. We had none of that in Mysore. In fact, we didn't even know people in Mysore except for a couple of people that I knew from my last trip. Even more importantly, or rather more difficult, if I can say so, is the fact that we did not know the local language. Sarika cannot speak Kannada. I could barely manage to speak Kannada when I came to Mysore in December 2020. And then started the process of building our life in Mysore. So it started with small utensils, and then a gas connection, then furniture, Wi-Fi, etc., etc. Slowly but steadily, with all the challenges, we sort of managed to create a semblance of a routine in Mysore. Just when we felt that, okay, we are now fitting into a routine, something else happened. But before that, actually family members started pouring in. My cousin Tithi came to Mysore as well. She works with me on the Storyco, and she also lives with us. So I know that Sarika and I had taken a leap of faith, but it wasn't just us. Tithi had taken a leap of faith too. Tithi's parents had taken a leap of faith too. The second person to arrive after that was my father-in-law, just for a few weeks to spend some time with her daughter. And that's when we took our first trip to Coorg, which was fantastic. We actually explored a little bit of Coorg, stayed in a nice little place in a coffee plantation, explored the place, and that's when I started feeling that, wow, we've taken a great decision by moving to a smaller city, and life is going to be hunky-dory. It's going to be beautiful for the rest of our life. But most stories don't play out like that, right? Stories have challenges, and without challenges, without conflicts, there are no stories. After we came back from Coorg, after a couple of weeks, I started feeling this really excruciating pain in my chest. We ignored it for a few hours, but by the end of the day, I realized that it was impossible for me to move without actually getting some medication. So I went to the hospital and got admitted there on the recommendation of the doctors. After 5 days of investigation, they were telling me it could be either tuberculosis or cancer or pneumonia. So I was hoping it would be pneumonia, which would be the easiest. And I was really hoping, and my family was also really hoping, that it wasn't cancer. It turned out to be tuberculosis, and I'm grateful for that, because it could have turned out to be cancer too, right? And between shifting hospitals, excruciating pain, and all the medicines which happen through inserting things into your body, all of those things happened. But in 10 days, I was out of the hospital. I came back home. But then the long and slow journey to recovery started. Now, interestingly, also, I had started my company, which is called the Storyco, which is a business storytelling coaching and training firm, back in April of 2020. So we hadn't really even completed a year. A lot of the things that we were doing were still experiments, and I had a lot of great plans for 2021 for the Storyco, but all of them seemed like they were coming crashing down, because now I had to take this like 7 to 8 tablets, I think, if I remember correctly, on a daily basis, which would almost make me drowsy, and sometimes it was really difficult to function with them. In the first week, I really questioned whether the recovery from tuberculosis is actually going to affect my company, and I was a bit unhappy about that as well, because after experimenting with a lot of things in the past few years, I had come down to the Storyco, or like I say, that I had found my ikigai. It was something that I really enjoyed doing, coaching, training, and specifically in the space of communications and storytelling. But at the same time, I knew that a lot of people needed this service, so it also meant that I could make some money out of it and build a financially sustainable life for myself and my family. But things like this happen, and around that time, when I was riddled with some self-doubt and I was asking a lot of questions whether this would also mean that Storyco will not become a success in 2021, is when I went back to an interesting book that I had read earlier in 2020. The book that I was talking about is Atomic Habits. So I went back to this book, Atomic Habits, which I had read in 2020, which actually spoke about the power of small changes or tiny little changes, but with consistency over a period of time. This book is by James Clear. I ranked this book as the best book that I have read, which actually has life advice or stuff that you can implement in your life. Of course, there are many other books which are fiction and travel and all of those things, but those are more for leisure, creativity, and igniting your imagination. This one is about practical advice. How is it I can tackle this difficult situation of a long road to recovery, but at the same time not give up on the beautiful business idea and work idea of the Storyco? And I realized that consistency was more important than big action or big achievement. And that's when I started working slowly on learning, which is learning a little bit every day, and sharing through writing. So I started learning and writing on a daily basis. I started with just 30 minutes, and eventually in a few months, I started learning and writing for 3 hours every day. Now, over a period of time, I realized that that's how we got a lot of startups to come and work with us, because we used to have this hybrid service of consulting, come content creation, which we used to call the brand storytelling kit for startup founders. So a lot of startup founders started coming to us. We started off at a very, very nominal price for this service, but in a few months we were able to take it to a decent price, and startups started paying. Eventually, I also realized that we had to move away from this model, because the model had its own challenges. The challenge for me personally was that the way to grow in that particular model was to build like an agency where you add people and you keep looking for more business. And considering the fact that I had decided to move to Mysore, and I really am, not was, a great fan of working from home or staying with your family, being in a great environment and having a great routine, I did not want to build an office or to have a lot of people working under me. The second thing was also, I've realized over a period of time, I'm 39 now as I'm shooting this video, I've realized that I'm much better as a leader when I'm handling or when I'm managing a small team of people who I am extremely involved with, as opposed to working with large organizations or with a lot of people, because then I find it really difficult to be invested in people and their growth. That's why I want to keep my team strength to less than 5. At the moment, it's 3 of us. That's myself, Tithi, and my colleague Ranjani. And hopefully we will not go beyond 5 people, but never say never, so you never know. So we went from the practical challenge of being able to scale up the service angle, and we had always started the Storyco with the idea of building a knowledge or a learning company. So that's when we took step 2, which is coaching. So we started the same things that we were doing in service. We built a coaching model out of that, and we started asking startup founders to find and articulate their story through my guidance and templates and models that we had created. Again, it was a difficult time because it took us about 3 months for people to be able to convince startup founders to take the coaching model as opposed to the service model, because a lot of them, of course, come to you thinking that you are going to take care of everything, and they just want to outsource their work and pay the money to an agency or to a vendor. But it also conflicted with a very important philosophy with which I started the StoryCo, which is that it's more important for professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs to understand storytelling as opposed to outsourcing storytelling to somebody else. And that's why it was important to coach and train, or rather even teach professionals, as opposed to creating their story on our own. But eventually we did. Around October is the time that we managed to go, and I managed to make the transition, and people started approaching us for coaching as well. So while this was happening, with the help of Atomic Habits and power of making small bit of progress every day, I was able to bring the business on track despite recovering, being on the long road to recovery from tuberculosis. But also at the same time, a couple of other interesting things happened. So while I was on the long road to recovery, and with the understanding of the power of habits, I was able to bring the StoryCo on track along with my team members, of course. But during that time, a couple of other interesting things happened as well, which taught me new things. And the first one was that I'm not a big fan of pets, or rather I was not a big fan of pets. I was indifferent to dogs. But my Sarika, my wife, is really fond of animals, and she wanted to have a pet for a long time. Our small apartments in Delhi and then later in Mumbai didn't really allow us to have a pet. Mysore was perfect to to get a pet, but I was procrastinating and I was trying to delay the decision as much as possible. And eventually I had to give in. There was this beautiful black Indie dog. She stays very close to our house. Her name is Dolly, and she had given birth to a few pups, and one of them was exactly like her, black in color, really beautiful. And that's when I really couldn't stop Sarika and Tithi from adopting that little cute puppy. And that's how Kiki came into our lives. And it's a long story. I can talk about Kiki forever, but in a few months, I went from being someone who was pretty much not interested in dogs and pets or animals to being someone who can be called as a pretty involved pet parent. So I absolutely love Kiki. Kiki has taught us a lot of things, and she really makes our life in Mysore on a daily basis much more interesting than it is. She's always there to lighten up the day. But that's one thing that happened. The second thing that we did is we also traveled a little bit. We went to places like Coorg and Chikmagaluru. Coorg was really beautiful again, and then we went to Chikmagaluru. We stayed in a 55-acre coffee estate with a private river, private waterfall, all of those things. And we had a lot of fun together as a family. I think our rhythms got better, our relationships kept improving because of the slow pace and the nice rhythm that we had found ourselves in Mysore. The third thing that happened is that I realized, or started realizing, that people who know me also know that I've traveled a fair bit. I actually quit my PR career back in 2015 to travel for a year, which ended up becoming a year and a half, and I traveled through about 18 countries during that time. And in total, I've traveled to about 28 countries, and I really love traveling, and solo travel was my thing. But I started realizing that the fun of doing anything is when you can share it with others and sort of facilitate or help others have the same kind of beautiful experiences. My mother and my aunt, my mom's younger sister, they retired in 2021 around April and May, or March or April of 2021, and Sarika, Tithi and I decided that it was time for us to be able to actually help them have newer experiences. Now, most senior citizens, or the polite term for old people, no, not old people, senior citizens, my mom might watch this video. Senior citizens is that they are close to newer ideas and experiences and experiments. But my mom and aunt, my mom Sharda and my aunt are not like that. Sujata are not like that. They are open to new ideas and experiments, and we actually took them surfing. We took them surfing to this really nice place called Mantra Surf Club. We are almost like regulars now. We go there. We've been there. This was the third time we went there. And they took surfing lessons on their own for the first time. My mom is already 60 and my aunt is 58 or 59 around that time. So surfing at 60 turned out to be a fantastic experience for both of them and for all of us as well. And Sarika is the one who's, sort of gave this trip as a gift to the entire family. So that was another interesting thing that I realized, that when you know something and you've done something, the joy of it is when you are helping others experience the same things or the beauty of the things that you really enjoy. But the point is of this entire video is that, one, to look back at the year of 2021, but also to realize something else. I'm probably speaking to myself more than anybody else, but I think there is some merit in sharing this with all of you as well. And that is, I think I found my philosophy in 2021, and that philosophy is ready, steady, slow. Now I know that it's a take on ready, steady, go, and ready, steady, go makes a lot of sense for all the fast-paced people and people who are trying to make a big dent in the universe and trying to move at a really supersonic speed. And in the world of speed, to say something like ready, steady, slow sounds a bit crazy, a bit wacky, but ready, steady, slow is what has made a lot of sense to me and to my family in 2021. And I'll break it down for you. Like I said, ready is when you truly understand or take time to understand what is it that you want from life. So for me, it was fairly clear. I want to be doing work which excites me. I want to be doing work which helps me learn something on a daily basis or learn something new on a daily basis. So I think I found that in the Storyco, and this has happened through years of trying and experimenting and asking questions over and over again. That's on the professional front. On the personal front, I really enjoy my time with my family, and I would like to do a lot of things with them, experiment new things. So while I think, in my 20s and in my early 30s also, life was all about experiencing things solo. So solo travel, solo adventure, solo backpacking, going and meeting new exciting people on the road was what life was all about. Now I realize that for me, what matters is to be able to experience things with my family and also to be able to share some perspectives with them, making plans with them. So that matters to me. That's the second thing. And the third thing that matters to me is, of course, having a life which is slow, deliberate, in a small city with beautiful environs, and that's what Mysore offers to us. So that's ready, right? And then, so you need to figure out what's the ready part for you, and you also need to have a plan. So my plan is habits, fairly simple, figuring out what habits keep me in the pursuit of the goal that I have, and goal is not something that is the finish line. What's more important is to be able to enjoy your life in the now and not putting your goals away for 10 years later or something like that. Steady is about doing something on a daily basis or doing it on a consistent basis. So whatever plans that we put together or habits that we put together, so whether it is about the fact that we learn and try to share things or write for at least 3 to 4 hours a day, that's the steady part. And that's something that we don't let go of. Even as a family, we try to inculcate, or we try to add gardening into our routine, taking care of Kiki into our routine, travel into our routine, learning new things into our routine. All of these things is what makes us happy on a regular basis, and we keep doing it steadily. We don't give up on it. We are consistent with it. It takes effort, but we try to stay consistent with all of those things. So that's the steady part. Now the third part, which is slow. Now by slow, what I mean to say is that you are deliberate in everything that you're doing. Many times I think in life what happens is that we are in the pursuit of a goal. It could be professional success, personal success, or anything else that matters to you. But we also tend to become slightly mindless about it and don't stop or pause to ask questions whether this goal really matters to me anymore, or whether this is something that is making me happy or not. And I think slow is being mindful, being conscious of everything, whether it is about your goals, your actions, your behavior. And that is what brought me to the next interesting thing that I did, or rather the way I ended 2021, that was with Vipassana. I actually went for a 10-day silence and meditation retreat. I'm sure many of you have heard of Vipassana. Many people also told me that they wanted to know more about Vipassana and my experience, and that's something that I'm planning to share in a video later. Let me know if you're interested, if you're looking forward to it, and if you have any specific questions. So then I will actually add inputs on those questions as a part of the video, and I'll sort of leave the link to that video when it's ready somewhere in the description. So ready, steady, slow, that's my new philosophy for life. Now I'm not saying that it is a philosophy cast in stone, because I realize, and you should too, that change is the only constant. But for now, it seems like it is something that is serving us well, and I'll continue experimenting with these things in 2022 as well. And as and when these experiments happen, as and when I have time, I'll keep sharing those with you. So maybe you can make use of it if it appeals to you as well, or otherwise you can just listen to these videos, leave a like and a comment and forget about it. So whatever you choose. So that was the year in review for myself, Sachin Bhandari, but I'm hoping that the philosophy of ready, steady, slow is something that makes sense to you as well. If you have any questions about travel, about Mysore, some of the experiments that we are doing, etc., please leave them in the comments. I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. But yes, let's make 2022 one of the most fabulous years of our lives. And if I can help you in any way in achieving that, I would be happy to do so. That's it from me in this video. You'll see me in the next one pretty soon.